Hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Noble, along with Wofford head coach Sean Watson. Time again for another episode of Inside Wofford Football, brought to you by Yokohama. Well, if the Terriers didn't have any luck at all, it could be a little different, but another tough 1-point loss on the road at Mercer, 22-21, Coach. Now, you've lost 3 games by a total of 6 points. And these could have all gone either way. Do you beat yourself up looking at 5 to 7 plays that could make the difference in any indication, or does it kind of teach your kids about attention to detail and every play matters?
Yeah, that's exactly what it does, because you never know. It does, especially against the opponents that we've played. They're all, former conference champions. They were conference champions a year ago. So what you've got to do is you've got to play your best football. And it always comes down to probably 2 to 5 plays, and really it's more, it's a small number of plays that you've got to, you never know, what it is going to mean to the game. And we had a couple of those in our game, and that's why you got to always strain to finish and you play full speed. And we've got to continue to demand that as coaches and coach the schematics of it all.
Defense, once again, playing great, taking the football away. The offense gets in on the act with some huge plays. We'll go over all the Mercer highlights. We will look ahead to this one coming up Saturday down the road, or up the road, actually, at Virginia Tech. We'll also visit with Terrier co-defensive coordinator Jonathan Saxon about how the defense has really turned it on. All that ahead here on Inside Wofford Football. Welcome back. All right, kind of a hot, steamy evening at Macon, Georgia on Saturday night. Mercer hosting Wofford, first SoCon game for both teams. Going into this game, you talked about how they were defending conference champions and certainly had a lot of talent coming back. Game plan-wise, once the game started, did things transpire the way you thought they would, or a little bit differently?
No, exactly what we thought. I think maybe defensively our guys would have told you there was a little bit more RPOs in it than what they had shown. And some of that was based off of what we do, so they're good coaches, so they were taking, they took that path, ran a little bit more of that. But as far as the defense side of the ball, we got what we expected to get.
Defense gets off to a little bit of a slow start, but they do make a red zone stop on the first drive and then let up another touchdown. So it's 10-0 second quarter, and the offense hasn't got on track, and time of possession is still out of whack. And then you pop a big play. Ison Jackson Anderson, who we'll now refer to as IJA because his name's so long, really makes a nice run down the right sideline. Looks like he's going in. And their defensive back just doesn't quit on the play, makes a great individual effort, and pops the ball out at the 1-yard line, goes in the end zone. Mercer recovers for a touchback. Hard play to bounce back from at that point?
Not really. You have to, rally back the young man that was involved, and, that was fundamentals. I mean, everything in football is fundamentally based, and, it's just keeping the ball high and tight. The kid from Mercer made a great effort play. And you never know as a ball carrier. It could be any position where pursuit's coming from. So the ball's always got to be in the high and tight, and we got low and loose with it, and the kid made a great effort play.
Well, it stayed 10-0 after that, of course. Then the teams kind of trade punts for a while. We kind of move into the second quarter. And then freshman quarterback Ethan Drum, who's shown progression since making his first college start last week, finally hooked up with his receiving core on a huge play.
Drum, back to pass. Throws it left sideline now this time, and it's long, and this time it's complete, and it's going to go all the way. It's going to be Akins. Touchdown, Terriers.
Turned out to be an 80-yard touchdown. Ivory Akins makes the catch, and boy, I mean, the throw, the route, the speed, it was all on display there.
Yeah, it was. It was a well-designed play. We actually had all 3 of the kids open. My man, Ivory, is the first progression. So he broke wide open. C.J. Adams made the play happen with his route technique, did a great job. and broke Ivory wide open. So that was a really nice, it was well executed by our kids.
Yeah, that makes it 10-7. You could feel the lift on the sideline. We're watching the kids, a lot of energy now because the offense has broken through. And then near the end of the half, Mercer gets the ball back about 30 seconds to go. And I know, again, these little plays that don't seem big at the time, they managed to drive down and kick a field goal, long field goal, but the kid drilled it. Anything you would have done differently at the end of the half, or did they just execute?
Well, we stop them on defense.
Yeah.
That bottom line is, we had an opportunity to get them stopped, and we've got to just put the brakes on them.
Yeah. So 13-7 at halftime. Wofford comes out. You guys had won the coin toss. You get the ball back to open up the second half, and that's when the floodgates started to open offensively.
Rolls out that way, stopped. He's going to go deep down the numbers and wide open, and it's a touchdown. Making the catch at the 10 and going all the way in for Wofford is Isaiah Scott, and the Terriers are a PAT away from taking the lead.
And I'm not sure I've ever seen a receiver more open down the middle than Isaiah Scott was on that. But again, that kind of quotes to what you were talking about before, is when the play is structured correctly and the other receivers are taking defenders out of the area, that thing could happen.
Yeah, our tight end on the backside really made that play happen. That was Matt Flanders did a great job of eating up the backside safety, and we had a well-designed play to attack the field safety, and Isaiah ran a precision route, and Ethan did a great job of getting him the ball. It was well executed.
Defense is getting into the act too, kind of at the same times, flying around there. C.J. Coombs, Maximus Poli, I thought collectively may have had one of their best games of the year. And Eli Campbell, who gets overshadowed a little bit and who had already had one interception in the game, got himself another.
Got all day to throw. Now some pressure comes. He steps up the middle. Will he try to run for it? No, he'll throw deep. It's intercepted. And this time it's Campbell. Campbell down the left sideline. Eli Campbell will take it to the house, or did he step out of bounds?
He stepped out.
Oh, he made one more move. Almost got it into the end zone.
And you and I have talked in the past about complementary football, that sometimes, when the defense is doing it all themselves, it's hard to see that. But when both sides are clicking and special teams gets into the act, they really seem to feed off each other.
They do, and I think our defensive kids were excited, for our offensive guys, because they see us every day, and our younger players were really coming through, making plays, and Ethan, did a nice job, got hot, and had those big throws, so it really permeated throughout the whole team.
And what does the offense do after they get the ball back again? They hit pay dirt again.
Ethan is going to pull the ball back out, throw it over the middle, and that's a touchdown for Wofford. C.J. Adams, and Wofford extends their lead here in Macon.
C.J. Adams gets into the act, and you guys are up 21-13, and you're getting the contributions from everybody. The protection is holding up. The running backs are running hard, and the receiver corps and your young quarterback Ethan, just everybody's playing with a lot of confidence at that point.
Right. They realized it in a game. It's one thing on the practice field, another thing in the game, and their confidence just began to grow, and we felt really good about the momentum we were creating on offense.
So we'll fast forward now to quarter number 4. Mercer gets back on the board. They get a field goal to cut the lead to 5, and then they get the ball into the end zone. Don't get the 2-point conversion, but they've got a 2-point lead. And then there's still a ton of time left in that game. And I know offensively you've been moving the ball. Gerald Modest is running the ball hard. Eisen is running the ball hard. You're still without Kyle Parsons, and those two really stepped up. Just unable to get the ball where you need it to get that maybe a field goal attempt near the end. Ethan Drum gets hurt. Jaden Whitaker comes in and maybe one of the greatest throws and catches I've seen in a couple of years. He and Isaiah hook up, and you get past midfield. But he just couldn't get over the hump. What was your view of those last couple of drives once Jaden Whitaker came in, and the way they were really kind of teeing off on your offensive line then too?
Well, they had a really, they had advantage. That play you're talking about. They're, we're backed up. Their punter was their weapon.
Yeah.
He had a number of punts inside the 10. and they had us backed up. And that play coming out, because we're going to shoot it out of the end zone, was a great throw by. It starts with protection. Give the offensive line a great credit, tight ends, backs, and then the one-on-one route that Isaiah ran was textbook, and Jay did a great job of sticking it on him.
It just doesn't pan out in the end, though. Mercer takes it 22-21. What was your locker room like after that game?
Yeah, everybody was heartbroken, coaches and players, because we felt like, we had our opportunities to win that football game. And, we just, you got to put your big boy pants on and you got to keep working. Yeah, I mean, there's, our whole mantra around here is coaching matters, and it starts with us. And then, our players understand that, the coaching is not a suggestion. These are, because there's some things that we did that gave up, didn't, finish a big play, and things that we did that gave up big plays. So, it all goes back to us as coaches. We just got to keep working.
All right, next stop, Blacksburg, Virginia, a trip up the road to meet Virginia Tech. We'll talk about that matchup next here on Inside Wofford Football, brought to you by Yokohama.
It doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 80 years old, your body is your strongest tool. Spartanburg Regional Sports Medicine Institute is here to push you to the next level. With 2 convenient locations, our doctors can diagnose, treat, and heal at our North Grove Medical Park and Star Center offices to get you back in the gym, in the game, and to the next level. We never quit because you never quit. For more information, call 560-BONE.
Coming up Saturday, a trip to face an ACC power, Virginia Tech. Going to host Wofford for the second time in about 3 years. You guys have been up there. Your upperclassmen have been up there. Kind of a strange situation with Tech making a coaching change over the weekend. I know that doesn't really affect you guys. So what do you say to your team in preparation for this one?
It's about us. Because it is about us. We have to, we have to continue to get better. We're raising a young group of football players, really both sides of the ball and special teams. So, our constant continued improvement is what we're striving for and what we're working hard for.
Before we let you go, tough physical game in Macon on Saturday night. A number of injured players. This week will determine how many of those guys. I know we'll keep an eye on Ethan Drum and C.J. Coombs and some of the other players. But how do you feel about their backups, the overall depth of the team, should you be forced to go that route?
Well, we've had to play a lot of players just that's part of our philosophy. We want to develop, especially in early games, develop our depth, and we practice that way. And we have played a number of guys. I don't care what position it is. So we're a team that's developing. So. I feel good about the guys that we have. Dylan Porter, who's Mason's backup, had a solid performance, and I expect him now to get better because that was his first game. So we'll continue to using him as an example. There's others too. I mean, we've played a number of young guys on defense. That's part of it. You got to continue to develop your depth because you're going to need it. We'll
keep fighting the good fight. Very often these one-point games tend to even out over the course of a season, so hopefully that'll be the case. Always appreciate your time, and we will see you up in Blacksburg.
See you there.
All right, and we're going to let Coach go, but when we come back, we're not done. Co-defensive coordinator Jonathan Saxon will join us next here on Inside Wofford Football. And welcome back, everybody. It's my pleasure to be joined by Jonathan Saxon, Wofford's defensive line coach and co-defensive coordinator. And tell you what, Coach, the way the defense has played, this is a very timely thing to have you on here. How do you feel about things so far in which your D has kind of carried the team the first 3 games?
We feel good, but we know there's more plays to be made. Like Coach was saying, it's about us. We want to fix us, keep growing, moving forward. So we just one step at a time, keep growing. We always find ways where we can get better at.
Your coaching background, your playing background, you could probably be mayor of Orangeburg, South Carolina, because you grew up there. Your dad was a coach at South Carolina State. You were exposed to all that probably your whole life. How did that form you with the great coaches that have come through that program? And I parked next to Coach Jeffrey's parking spot when we were down there, and all the great coaches that were down there. How did that form you and make you want to go into coaching?
And I was blessed. My dad started off saw him at a young age, just helping out kids, taking kids to college, helping them out just to get to school, just being exposed to that from there. Just fell in love with the game. Game has done so much for me, and just being exposed to going to Louisville to work with Coach Strong, Coach Watson, Coach Hurd, then coming back to South Carolina State, work with Coach Pugh, and just learn from him and Coach Jeffries to where I am now. So it's a blessing. Thankful.
Yeah, you could have helped us out a little bit and told them to take it easy on us in the opener. It didn't turn out that way, but it's such a great football legacy at that place. We actually love going down there. Present time now, let's talk about the defense. You've had a lot of youth. In this era of college football, there's a lot of turnover, but you were able to play some kids last year due to injury and situation that now they're a year older, a year better. You've gone pretty deep defensive line-wise in your rotation. Talk about is it out of necessity or preference that you've been doing
It's
that?
out of preference because, I tell the guys all the time, everybody has a niche, everybody has a role. It's about just developing, keep rolling because you may have a hot hand in this hand, so you're going to roll, but just keeping those guys fresh, so in and out, so we can play at our highest that we can.
Mm-hmm. Final question. As the defense progresses, can this defense get better than what they've shown? Because they've shown a lot so far.
Definitely we can. We can. That's our mentality is next play, next day. It's always something to get better at. We're coaching every snap to get better and better because the sky's the limit for us. But at the same time, we got to keep grinding, keep growing. That's what it's about.
All right, I'm not going to ask for a shutout against an FBS team up at Virginia Tech, but we wish you the best of luck. Can't thank you enough for joining us and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right, and that'll do it for this edition of Inside Wofford Football. For Sean Watson, for Jonathan Saxon, I'm Jim Noble, and we will see you next week.